Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Manchester Derby. I don't know if it's a big Manchester Derby because it feels like one of those games where there's not much in it for United in terms of the Premier League, but there's certainly something in it in terms of pride and stuff. As for Man City, of course, they've got Champions League football that they're still chasing, and they've put out quite a strong squad, which you can see at the bottom. But before we dive into Manchester City's squad, we have Shreyas alongside me, who's going to go through the United team with me. So starting in goal is Andre Onana. Our back three is Mazraoui, Maguire, and Yoro because Matthias de Ligt is injured. We have Dalot, Ugarte, Casemiro, and Dorgu as the four. And then we have Garnacho, Bruno, and Højlund. Now, we'll go into the full team and what we expect and each individual, but let's try and go through it in terms of like defence, midfield, and attack as we always do, Shreyas. That back three, does that give you confidence against Man City?
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I think when it comes to the goalkeeping position, there aren't really any surprises because Onana is probably the only one you could go for with. I think considering the kind of front line City have gone with, I think this is perhaps your best bet to actually go with because Marmoush is a very different kind of a striker. He's very agile. He's got a good shot on him as well. And apart from that, he's a very different striker if I have to compare him to Haaland. He's more of an Alvarez type of a striker.
Yeah.
So Marmoush is someone to watch out for, and then Foden and Silva are going to be on the wings. So pace is not something you need to worry about when it comes from the flanks because with Foden as well as Silva, they're not blessed with that amount of pace that Doku is blessed with or Semenyo is blessed with. So I think with Mazraoui being there, Yoro being there, and Maguire being the centerpiece, I think they form a good partnership at the back.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a different kind of challenge in it for both, whether it is Dorgu, Yoro, Dalot, Mazraoui. To deal with those techie players is a completely different challenge if you are facing a Dorgu or Semenyo because they are going to pick the ball up and they're going to drive at you 1v1, whereas these kind of players will drift inside, they'll look for overlaps, they'll look for little combinations and little through balls. So, I don't know, maybe it's almost a bit more difficult defending against you Bernardo Silva's and your Fodens of this world, but both of them, in fairness, for the majority of the season, I don't think they've really been in fantastic form. Now, I might say that, and they might have an unbelievable game against us now, but for the majority of the season, they haven't been great. So that's the back line I would have gone with. That's the one I don't know what you said in the preview. Is that something you went with, or did you throw someone else in there? Yeah. We do have, I believe, from reports that I've seen, we do have Heaven and Shaw on the bench, which is very, very interesting. So if we need reinforcements, then they are there. And of course, Luke Shaw is someone who's played really well against Man City before and absolutely pocketed Haaland, which you won't need to worry about today. So I'm all right with that back line. I'm quite happy with that. I think they should be able to hold their own. When you go into the midfield, though, are you surprised Ugarte Casemiro starts?
Kind of, yeah, because I think in this sort of a setup, you would want to have players with more legs and agility being in there in the midfield, someone more mobile in order to deal with that City midfield because Kovacic can be a bit of an issue because he's a very scrappy midfielder, but I think Gundogan and De Bruyne, it's a very slow midfield, personally, if you're Cities. So if we managed to actually drop Bruno in the midfield alongside Ugarte, it would have given us a lot more to compete with against City when it came to the midfield because legs-wise, mobility-wise, and I would even say when it comes to, covering ground, Ugarte and Bruno are absolutely going to outshine whether it's De Bruyne, whether it's Kovacic, whether it's Gundogan. So, having Casemiro in there, bit of a gamble, but maybe, with the setup that, Amorim has gone with in the past few fixtures, Casemiro has done all right in that spot, in a bit of a molded role in that partnership, in that double pivot. So, going to be interesting to see how he deals with City, but could work out. But personally, I would have dropped Bruno in midfield.
Yeah, it looks like they've gone with a lot of technical players, doesn't it? Like all of them, Bernardo, Foden, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Kovacic are all, you wouldn't necessarily class them as athletes, really. So it looks like they are going to try to keep the ball for straight us, and I think concentration is going to be important. And when you talk about players like Casemiro, for me, sometimes he does have that lapse in concentration, or he does snatch at a ball, or he does get his pocket picked, and I think that's what Man City are going to target in the middle, and obviously Ugarte is going to do Ugarte things and kind of put fires out. Random guy saying, I don't mind Casemiro in the midfield anymore, especially with our system actually playing to his strengths. Good lineup, a win today would be huge. 5 gifted memberships if we win. I will match that as well. Heaven is not on the bench, apparently. That's interesting. I'm sure I saw reports like this morning that he'd be in there, but if he's not, then
yeah,
it's fair.
he's out.
Andy Williams more worried about Marmoush than Haaland. A Pep Force 9 are the worst to play against. Yeah, Because
Yeah.
especially when you've got 3 centre-backs as well, they're not really occupied marking anyone when players are dropping in, and they can just cause absolute havoc. So, yeah, I absolutely appreciate that. Now, when we talk about the forward line, Bruno, Garnacho, Højlund, there was a period around, I want to say, about December, where I didn't really like Bruno Fernandes in the 8, or double pivot, or whatever it is you want to call it, right? Just simply, there was games against Tottenham and Arsenal where he was a bit meh. But since then, he's kicked on, he's done really well, won Player of the Month, etc. Now you're seeing him focused more higher up. Why do you think Amrin's gone with that? Why do you think is it kind of to match like if Mount was to play there, let's say, for example, do you think it's to match that kind of pressing intensity that he wants from the front?
I think it's more than pressing. I think it's got more to do with creating chances and more output when it comes to the front three. Because when you've got Xerxes, Garnacho, and Højlund playing up there, they do have spells where you look and say, that was a good move, it was a good pattern, but there is nothing to reflect for it when it comes to goals. At least, I think the reason he's shifting Bruno more upwards is because he needs more from the attack.
Yeah.
You can't bank on your midfielders every single time to bail you out. And having Bruno in there does create, I would say, an easy job for Højlund when he's making those sort of channel runs, because Bruno is perhaps one of the only midfielders in there who can actually find him when he's making those sort of runs. So having Bruno in that 10, I would say, even elevates Bruno, because having him nearer to the box creates more trouble for the opposition defenders, and you need some sort of edge in that attack. And right now, none of our players have that sort of edge when it comes to the attack. So perhaps dropping Bruno in there could light things up.
Yeah, I also think it'll be focusing on players like Kovacic, Bruno dropping out of possession. It'll be working on those kind of players to try to stop it. And obviously, De Bruyne likes to drop in as well. You had the whole announcement of De Bruyne leaving Man City at the end of the season, so there'll be a bit of a... I imagine, I don't know, he might have a bit of a good performance. Hopefully not, because he's been not shocking all season, but compared to his standards, he's not been the Kevin De Bruyne that you kind of remember. So, yeah, hopefully he doesn't have a game today, because I can't be asked with that, because he's unbelievable when he's on form. Rasmus up top, I mean, I feel like we say it every single week, but he's just got to start scoring, man. He's got to start scoring. Do I expect him to do it today? No, probably not. He'd probably spend half the time wrestling with Diaz and wrestling with whoever else it is at centre-back. Gvardiol, I think it is, who's playing as well. I don't think he'll get a sniff there. But one moment you can get with Man City, Shreyas, and we'll get onto tactical stuff as well a little bit later, is they do make errors. You can force them into a mistake from the back, from playing out from the back. Gvardiol's got a mistake in him. Diaz has definitely got a mistake in him. You've seen that a few times as well. I think he did it with Portugal. So if you're going to look to get your opportunities, they're there, aren't they?
Being completely honest, that midfield and defense can be got at.
Yeah.
And that midfield is very slow. So if Ugarte and Casemiro as well, they're on their game tonight, we can absolutely overrun that midfield. If you look at the defense as well, it's not a strong defense at all. You look at the right-hand side, you've got Matheus Nunes playing on as a right back. You've got O'Reilly, who's a very young player, playing as the left back, and then Diaz and Guardiola as the centre-back partnership. So Nunes and O'Reilly both, I would say Nunes is more vulnerable. So having Dorgu back is very, very, I would say, important for us, because I think he can cause a lot of trouble on that side, especially alongside Garnacho. So Dorgu and Garnacho being on their side with that sort of pace can cause a lot of issues to City. On the other hand, I would say even with O'Reilly and Guardiola, if Dalot has a good performance, big fingers crossed on that. But if he does have a good performance, I think him and Bruno can also do a lot of damage, because midfield and defense-wise, City are not a strong team right now.
No, I agree. I thought against Forest in the last game, I thought we looked really good on the ball. Thought we created the most chances. We had the most shots, which was a huge improvement when you look at the reverse fixture. I thought we was far better in that. Amrin speaking about the team looking better. It feels like there's progression there. I've seen Roy Keane with his comments saying he's not too sure, but I mean he's just being Roy Keane, which is absolutely fine. But like you said, with Man City, you can get at them. They make mistakes. They're open at the back. But the issue is we have the fourth lowest conversion rate in the league, I think it is. And I think down to that is players like Garnacho and players like Højlund. Garnacho is someone for me who I would focus on today as like the one I'm going to be really watching. Of course, I'm going to be watching the game. I'm going to be watching both teams, how they set up and stuff. But Garnacho in particular, you think about that Forest game, Shreyas, he was really frustrating, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons is, again, Garnacho is a player who, for some reason, has a lot of pressure riding on him, because I think a lot of fans are still divided upon his future when it comes to Manchester United, whether they want him to continue, whether they want him to be a part of this, or whether they want him to be offloaded. Because there are a lot of situations right now happening at the club, financially as well. If Garnacho does leave for a lucrative offer, it can actually help United out a lot. But on the other hand, the potential is definitely there. There is definitely a player in there, no shadow of a doubt in that. But can he, provide us with the output in that 10 position? There is still a big question mark over that. Does he fit into that position well, or do things come to him with sort of, I would say, hesitation in that position? Not playing with as much freedom. He's not able to express himself fully on the pitch. So there are a lot of factors right now when it comes to Garnacho. He does have, he has had spells. I would say before that Forest game, he was getting a lot of assists. Making a lot of crosses into the box, making a lot of low crosses into the box as well. So I would say that he has definitely got better in that position, but there is still a lot of room when it comes to improvement.
It almost feels like you need a tailor-made player for those attacking areas, don't we? Those inside 10s, you need a very, very specific outfit. And I don't think we have any of those at the club at the minute. I mean, they all have the strengths. Garnacho's very direct, he's aggressive. He's absolutely relentless. He'll keep going. You've got Xerxes, you can drop in, technically wonderful, but not the quickest, and doesn't score a lot of goals. I think you need maybe a couple in that area to bring in. And I always relate to it back at Sporting when he had Goncalves and Trincao, like specific players for the system. And he's having to deal with the hand that he's dealt with. It's probably one of the reasons you'd expect why he wanted to come in the summer, right? Because it was like, I know when I come in, I can bring in specific players for that role because they don't have it at the minute. But it was like now or never. So you come in halfway through the season and you deal with basically what you've got in front of you, which is essentially a mixed bag of players who's just you piece together who's going to fit where against what outfit. So I hope Garnacho has a good game today. Whether it's, if he keeps playing well, his price will increase or stay the same, or just in general, just to get some form out of him. Because if we're going to win anything big, like the Europa League, for example, we need them kind of players to be clicking. If they're not, I feel like we're going to struggle in that competition. And momentum's important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And again, if these players don't fire, you don't have any goals coming out for you. Like if you even look into this attack right now, if you take Bruno out of the picture, we don't have any goals in that team at all.
Yeah. So and goals win you games. Simple as that, isn't
it? Yeah. You take your chances early on into the game. A 1-0 within the first 10 minutes of a game, or keeping a 0-0 till halftime, it does a whole lot of difference to a game altogether. If a team is trailing, spaces do open up when they are trying to get at you. You can make the most of your opportunities, but you need to be very clinical. You need to make the most of your opportunities. And at United, we've been very wasteful with that. I think even now, and I've said it for a long time, the best chances of our game always fall to Garnacho for some reason. He's in those areas a lot more than Højlund, and he's not able to make the most of those opportunities. So if we are not being clinical, it's going to, cost us ultimately at the end.
Look for the players around you. That is the message I would absolutely be drilling in Garnacho's head before we go out. If you get into an important area, make sure you do it. And look, he's proved in that area where he's playing today, if he is in fact on the right-hand side, that, in the FA Cup final, it's exactly where he scored from. It was from a mistake between Gvardiol and Edison, and he countered on it. So have that same kind of, anticipation and make sure you're there if the opportunity arises. Random saying, I think Amarin wants Bruno help the team in attack and to really switch up the play in the second half, as we've seen before. A Xerxes or Mount would be subbed on for Casemiro, and Bruno would drop deep. Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. If you are just joining, by the way, hello. I've been off the channel for a few days. It's nice to see you. Apologies I have, if anyone does give a shit, but yeah, it's nice to be back and nice to see you in the chat. Please do leave a like in the video for us as well and subscribe to the channel. Dorgu needs a big game playing against Nunez. He's got to dominate him. I didn't think Dorgu was great in the last game, Shreyas. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I thought actually Dalot played better in the game against Forest.
I think, again, Forest is a very tough team to play right now. And on top of that, I would say to counter Dorgu, they had the best players on there. Murillo and Milenkovic, both the way they switched around, mid-game as well, to actually stop attacks from that left-hand side, because Dorgu was perhaps one of our most creative players in the past few weeks, and he caused a lot of trouble while moving the ball forward. So I think defensively, Forest are perhaps one of the best sides in the Prem right now.
Yeah.
So I can see why Dorgu didn't really have as much of a good game. Still very young. Still, only made a few appearances in the league, and Forest are a trouble to any team right now. Especially, they are when they go 1-0 up within the first 10 minutes of the game, there is no way you're actually going to win that game, because they've made that team tailor made to play that sort of way since the start of the season. So for, and I think especially with youngsters, these one-off games are going to happen. Dorgo will still have a poor performances, I would say, in the upcoming weeks, but he is definitely a big talent. He's definitely a big player, and he's shown, the kind of impact that he can have on this team. And with Dallo, he did look better, but I hope he actually steps up today, because he's been very inconsistent this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's one thing for me that's probably the most important playing against Man City is concentrations and experience. And because you have players like Garnacho, Højlund, Dorgu, Ugarte is still a little bit young, let's say, for example, Yoro, you just hope they are fully switched on and ready for this game.
Yeah.
Because Dorgu, for example, obviously hasn't played against Manchester City. You don't have, like, Maguire's played against him God knows how many times, so he knows what to expect. Dorgu, it's a little bit of like you putting your foot in the water and you've seen how deep it is, and it's I hope he's more attacking and stays confident rather than, being really reserved and just being pinned back.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're going to get with Pep and Man City. They're going to dominate the ball. They're going to horseshoe. They're going to look for combinations, 1v1 situations, cutbacks into the final. You know exactly what they're going to try and do, and they're going to try and be sustainable with it. But because they don't have a Rodri in there, because De Bruyne has fell off as much as he has, because Bernardo hasn't been particularly great, and they haven't got a focal point in Haaland, let's say, for example, if they do want to go long, which they have done against Arsenal and other teams as well, it's not the same City. So there's been a drop in urgency, and maybe that is down to the mental and physical toll of chasing 4 trophies last season. So you can get him, and you're at Old Trafford as well. That's another important thing. Like you've got the crowd behind you. The past 4, 5, 6 games, the performances have significantly improved, and you've already beaten Man City in December. So I don't know what kind of performance to expect today, but it should be maybe close to matching him. Like and derbies are always close anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And, once again, the only troublemaker in this team of Manchester City is Marmoush. So if you're able to actually double down on him and get him to shut down, they've got no players in that team right now who I would say they've got a goal on them. They've got a goal on them. They've genuinely not got that. So this is a very weak City side if I have to compare it to, the past few times that we faced them. And this is perhaps the best opportunity we can get to actually take points off them, because they're not in form right now.
No, I agree. And we need that kind of that intensity. We just need to be braver as well. I think the reason why teams have got results against Manchester City is because they've been really brave and they've executed the plan perfectly. If they stick to the beliefs and they're not as flaky, that's the problem with United players. The mentality at times in certain games, especially if they're against bigger teams, sometimes they don't feel fully confident to just fuck it, just go for it. And they need to do that. They need to build that confidence, because they're getting there. They're not performing amazingly well, but they've just gone toe-to-toe with Forest, who are third. They're above Man City. So for me
played
today,
Arsenal off the park as well the past few weeks. So
we should have won that game. Absolutely, we should have won that game, in my opinion. Another target, I think you touched on it before as well. I don't rate Núñez at right back. I think we can target him, definitely. There's areas of weakness there, but you just never know with Man City. Man City could turn up and just dominate the ball, and we're struggling, and it's a grind, and they could just pick us off, easy 2-0 win, because they have the capabilities of doing that. But we need to make it as difficult as possible for them. I'm actually quite surprised that Savinho isn't starting, or at least Doku. I was going to say Dogu then, because I feel like one of them two against, if they can pick off a Maguire or Yoro or someone like that, I think they could cause problems. Savinho's got 8 assists this season. He's been relatively good for like an opening season. So are you surprised none of them are on the pitch?
I'm surprised that none of them were picked, because again, both of them are blessed with pace, and Doku not so much, but Savinho does cause issues. Having, I think he's got, like you mentioned, 8 assists in the league already. So not going to say that he's had a cracker of a season, but he's still relatively decent. And when you're coming up against, the kind of setup that United has gone with, Euro being there, Maguire being there, who both, I would say, do struggle with very pacey and agile wingers. We've seen Euros struggling against Sulemana. I think it was against Southampton.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe one of Doku or one of Savinho would play, but he's gone
I
with Fodo and
remember,
Foden.
sorry to cut you in, Shreyas.
Yeah.
I remember Mazraoui struggling with Werner as well. Do you remember against
Yeah.
Spurs on that side? That's why I'm saying, like, against pacey players, they can struggle sometimes. So I don't know if Pep's got that right or not, but who am I to tell Pep Guardiola, one of the greatest managers,
Yeah.
what he should be doing? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the derby in general, how excited are you? Because it's not a typical derby, is it, where, all right, both teams are going for the Champions League, both teams, one's third, one's fourth, or it's an FA Cup final where we've played them multiple times before. It's a bit of a weird situation that we're finding ourselves in at the moment, isn't it?
It is a weird situation, but I still think this game can have a big impact on our season because we're going to be coming up against Lyon soon, and going into that game with a win against Man City
Yeah.
would,
Flying.
actually it would get the confidence high in a lot of these players. And we've seen how much confidence plays a role, especially in this team. When these players are confident, they've given us some very good performances. When they are low on confidence, they can't even string one pass together. So I think this game, I don't care as much about the result. I care more about how we actually turn up in this game. Because if we still have a good performance, like in the Forest game, at least we did have a good performance. We created a lot of opportunities in that game. So there are a lot of positives that we can take from that game and go into this one. If we get a win against them, I think that game against Lyon becomes a bit easier for us to handle.
Someone mentioned it in the chat before, so I think substitutions are going to be really important in this because both have got cards that they can play. So, for example, we just spoke about the players with Pep. He can bring on a Doku or a Savinho, just that kind of jack in a box to switch things up. Or a Grealish as well as another one who can just drag players away and create space for others. And then for us, likewise as well, I think Mount, Xerxes, these kind of guys can come on and be, game changers as well. So I want just implore people to look at the starting lineups. I think the bench could have a significant impact on this. When Amarin, makes those decisions if he needs to. In regards to the Champions League, obviously City are chasing that. Who do you see end up getting it? Because you've got Chelsea, Villa, Brighton, obviously a couple of others in there as well, I think, who could be pushing for it. Who do you think gets that top four? I think currently Chelsea drawing 0-0 with Brentford. That's just about to finish.
Chelsea won't make it.
Yeah, they've just dropped more points. So City win today, they go above Chelsea. So that's a huge incentive for them as well.
I think Liverpool, Arsenal are definitely nailed on for that. I think Forest will make it as well because every single time I expect Forest to drop points, they end up putting a masterclass and getting 3 points. So I think Forest are definitely going to be there. It's a toss-up for fourth. I think it might be Newcastle because, again, since winning that Carabao Cup as well, they've been in tremendous form.
As well.
And at St. James's Park, that's a nailed-on loss. So I think Newcastle are up there, and Villa might actually, sneak through as well because Villa are also in and around those spots. And being in the Champions League, I know has an impact on you, but the kind of players and depth they've created in this January transfer window, Rashford being there in in some very decent form. Asensio has been absolutely amazing for them.
Yeah.
Then you've got Marlon in there, you've got Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, Jacob Ramsey. So they've got some very good depth in that lineup. So I think it will be a toss-up between Villa and Newcastle for me.
Yeah, they've got a player called Marcus Rashford who's doing quite well for him as well, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you look, I know we've mentioned it before, but I mean, between Brighton are on 47 points, Chelsea are on 53. There's 6 points between 4th and 9th. So it's still very possible for any of those teams if they just maintain that. Even Fulham now, just beat Liverpool. They're on 48 points now, so they're 5 points behind Chelsea. So that is doable. It's absolutely doable. I don't know the individual runs that each team has got. I'm sure, the majority of them have still got difficult games, but that could be anyone's at this point. They could really still get European football.
Yeah,
so
and I've just noticed Newcastle have a game on hand. So if they do win their couple of games, they're just 1 point of Forest.
And one of their game in hands, like I said, is against us. So we could have a say in both.
And one is against Leicester. And one of them is against Leicester. So
there you go. That's already a win there, isn't it, to be fair? I'm just looking up, actually, because I wanted to speak to you about, obviously, Pep staying at Manchester City. But then the charges as well was supposed to come out this at end of March, I think it was. So we're still waiting for it to happen. What's your expectations with that, do you think?
I don't think much is going to happen, being completely honest with you. I think City will. I think it will be a minimal punishment. Being completely honest, because ever since Haaland signed that 10-year contract, I just thought that no player would like to secure their future for this much if they didn't have any guarantee that uh, the club is going to be in safe hands or not.
I was just looking at and expecting in the next few weeks. So, I mean, that's going to be so interesting when that happens. I mean, they might not even be in the Champions League anyway, because they might just have points deducted or they might be relegated. There's so
Yeah,
many
and
question marks and
again,
unknowns at the minute.
this City just not being in there just blows the race open for every single club there is.
But what happens then? Because if they drop out, is it just a team below them that will go into the Champions? But they might be in the Europa League.
I think it also depends on the fact on the coefficient rankings as well. Because if it is a scene that top 5 do make it, maybe 6th position also get Champions League, and then FA Cup winners go to Europa.
Yeah, that is a fucking headache. I wouldn't want to be that guy who's sorting that out. Chelsea have also drew 0-0 as well, and Tottenham have beat Southampton 2-1. So Tottenham have gone above us now in the league. It's same points. I think we're both on 37 points, but they are level with us as well. So, yeah. Right, back to the comment section. What we're saying, people, if you are joining, please leave a like on the video for us. Josh is saying Nunes is shit. Honestly, the amount of errors he made is astronomical, including the penalty he gave away in our Etihad win. Oh, yeah, Ramad. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Great point. If Dorgu struggles, I'd move Garnacho left wing back. De Bruyne's last Manchester derby with him leaving at the end of the season, so he'll want to finish his last derby strong with a goal or assist. That's what I'm worried about. Nico O'Reilly's a really good player as well. Is it Lewis O'Reilly or something? Is it Nico O'Reilly?
I think Nico. Rico Lewis and Nico O'Reilly.
Let me get it up because that's. I'm sure it was. It's Nico O'Reilly.
Yeah, Nico O'Reilly. Rico Lewis is that right back, the different one.
Confusing. But yeah, I agree. He's had the past couple of games. He's looked really, really good. Scouser's late bottle. Imagine. What's how far ahead are they? 73 points. So they're 11 points ahead of Arsenal. So they'd have to lose 4 games, wouldn't they, in the next 7? Which is very unlikely, isn't it? But if they did, I mean, you know what? If Arsenal actually kept it together a little bit and got results, like they beat Everton the other night, and there's a couple of others where if they would have just, fucking finished the chances, they'd be right in the mix. But yet again, they're another team who's just fucking completely bottled it again. Completely bottled it. Anyway, it's the Manchester derby.
1 sec.
Let's talk about United. Go on. Was you getting a stat up or something? I was confused. Oh, I'm lagging. Oh, 1 second. I'm lagging. 1 second. Are we okay?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
It freezed on my screen for like 5 seconds. Now it's good.
Because you went 1 sec and then you started texting. I was like, what's going on here? I'm a bit like, yeah, because you weren't lagging on my screen, so I don't know why it's that. Anyway, let's get into some stats then. So Manchester United are looking to complete their first Premier League double over Manchester City since 2019 and 2020, following their 2-1 win at the Etihad Stadium in December. City have won more Premier League away games against United than any other side. That's 9. And 5 of those 9 wins have come under Pep Guardiola, the most of any visiting manager in the competition. And Bruno Fernandes has been involved in 21 goals at Old Trafford for United this season, 12 goals and 9 assists. If he assists in this game, it'll be the 3rd time he's got 10 or more goals and 10 or more assists in the season at Old Trafford. In the past couple of years, which is an incredible stat. Bruno, he's the one in it, Shreyas, we're looking at the moment to step up. Are you expecting a big performance from him today?
Yeah, for sure. And even the last time we played City, he had a tremendous performance. So I expect the same from him tonight. And again, he's probably our only outlet for goals and assists right now. Get him a good striker and another 10 to play alongside with. Maybe, the numbers will go even higher.
Yeah, he's matching Luke Shaw's appearances today as well, isn't he? Which is crazy, considering Luke Shaw's been at the club for 10 years, almost. And Bruno's been here 5 years now, is it? Or is it a little bit longer?
He came in 2020.
18? Or was it 2020 he came in?
I think just before that COVID season he came in the winters, in the
Yeah,
winter
it
break.
was
So
with the black
18 or
badge when Ollie
19.
was in charge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, 2020 it was, yeah. Why do I feel
Yeah.
like he's been here longer? I always feel like that shirt that we had with the black badge was like
Yeah.
2019, 18. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, so obviously he's been here for, it feels like a lot longer, but 5 years, the impact that he's had, just to kind of separate it from the derby, he's been unbelievable, hasn't he, Bruno?
He has been, and again, perhaps our best signing since Sir Alex. He is, has been Bruno Fernandes, constantly delivering for us week in and week out, and to actually produce 30 goal contributions every single season with the kind of United team that he has been part of, you know, throughout his tenure, in such an erratic team with every single thing that has been going on at the club as well within those 5 years. It's a big ask to ask any player to actually deliver with as much stats that he has, and with the appearances as well. He's only missed like 1 or 2 games for us in that entire timeline, so that's a big achievement to have quality as well as the availability to match up with it.
People always make comparisons, don't they, with Bruno and De Bruyne and Maddison and Ødegaard and all these players, right? But if we're having it right, those two in particular, Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne, for the past, De Bruyne in particular, the past decade, have been the two best 10s in the league, haven't they?
They have been, and I don't think that Maddison or Ødegaard will even fall into the same conversation. So the thing is, with him, I think even De Bruyne, I think it was last season that he did some sort of a show where he ranked all the midfielders in the Prem, and even he ranked Bruno higher than Ødegaard and Maddison.
Yeah.
So, and again, how many goals and assists has Ødegaard got this season?
I'd say very few.
He's nowhere near to Bruno's, and you still don't hear as much about Ødegaard than if you have to compare it to how much Bruno actually hears, even though he's got like 16 goals and 15 assists this season. I think it's just a conversation about narratives, because if you just switch out the shirts, and if Bruno was an Arsenal player, the league would have looked a lot more different.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mentioned this to guys on BBC Manchester the other day, and I was saying, if you put De Bruyne, and this is by no stretch of imagination saying that De Bruyne is a better player than that Bruno's a better player than De Bruyne, right? But if you put De Bruyne in United's team, do you think he would have the same impact as what Bruno's done for us in this bad period?
In this entire timeline, no. But I think that in that one season, when we had Cavani for that entirety, maybe would have been a bit more efficient for us, because I think that season when we finished second was the only season where we actually had a potent attack, where wingers were contributing, striker was contributing, midfield was contributing. So I think that's perhaps the only season. But apart from that, the way Bruno has elevated this team, because when he came in, we were like 7th or 8th. He came in, got us a top 4 finish. Next season, finished second with around 28 goals and 18 assists throughout that season. Again, next season, 14 goals, 15 assists. So he's been constantly up there. But I think the responsibility and the intensity of this shirt would have been too much for De Bruyne to carry out week in and week out.
Yeah, I think it needs to be shared. You speak about responsibility there. It needs to be shared amongst the squad, because for way too long now, the weight has been on Bruno's shoulders. And if we look to the bench today, you've got a couple of more senior players on there now who can play in that role. If we need to drop Bruno back into the midfield, you've got Mount who can come on, you've got Xerxes who can come on, and you've got Eriksen as well. As well as that, you've got Bayern, Lindelof, Shaw, Amas, Chido, and Kunkonke on the bench today. So yeah, if you're looking in the 60th, 70th minute, it's 1-1, quite a tight game. Who are you bringing on?
Mount, for sure. I think, again, it's a shame that he's as injury prone.
Yeah.
And he can't stay fit, because he's perhaps one of the best players you can actually search for in the league to play in one of those 10 positions. And it's not even about, he's past it, because whenever I do see him play, you can see his effectiveness. You can see how much he can actually elevate that attack. If you had the 2 10s with Bruno and Mount being there, you've got Dorgo on the left hand side, you've got Ahmad on the right hand side as wing backs. The scene would actually completely change for us moving the ball forward. So it's a shame that he's as injured, but I think if you have to look at someone and go, we need a goal. I think the first player I will look at will be Mason Mount.
Yeah. Which is weird, right? But I think in the last game, even against Forest, he had one of the best chances, didn't he? Just went wide of the post, if you remember. Yeah, he's someone I'd look at. I think Mason Mount is someone I would bring on. Do you think Shaw will get any minutes?
I think Shaw will get minutes. I think in this he might,
like a
because
cameo, 10 minutes, just settle it down a little bit, experienced.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it is a situation where we are leading 1-0 or we've just scored and we are leading 2-1 and you need to close the game out, I would have Maguire, Shaw, and Mazraoui in that back line for sure.
Yeah. Ruben Amorim's just been speaking on Luke Shaw, actually, returning. It's important. He's really experienced and can help us, not just on the field, but outside of the field. Everyone is really happy to have Luke Shaw again. The ultimate question is, can he just please stay fit now? If you can get even 6 months out of him now, just fucking
having him for the entirety of the Europa League could be very, very important. Both him and Mount, because you need experience and you need players who can actually have an impact on this team, because Lisandro is not going to be here. Yeah. So we need someone who can be there as an experienced figure on that left-hand side.
Absolutely, spot on. Josh saying they haven't beat Liverpool yet, still have 2 extra minutes left. Obviously, that game's finished now. 115 scarves are being handed out, apparently. That'd be absolutely hilarious if that was the case. Modrama says De Ligt is a big miss. Yeah, De Ligt's been phenomenal for us. We're not really touched on him, to be fair, but it goes without saying with Matthias De Ligt, he's been sensational, I think, since he's come in. Been dropping 7, 8 out of 10s every single game.
Every week.
But you've got Maguire in there. It should be enough experience. I mean, he's more experienced than De Ligt, so you would hope, especially in these kind of derbies, he'll be guiding the players like youngsters like Euro, for example, and maybe Ugarte in front of him through this. So, yeah, God knows what to expect in this one. I think it's going to be an interesting spectacle. I do feel like it could be. I could be wrong here, but I think like the theme of the game could be a bit boring. Like it could be a bit cagey. I think City will keep a lot of the ball, but not create too many chances. And we'll have the odd occasion where we need to take it. And then also being the team that we are, we won't take them because we're just not consistent in the attacking areas. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
I think United will try to actually aggress from the get-go. Being at Old Trafford, I think we'll try to aggress. Won't work in our favor for sure. We'll not be able, because even the last game that we actually played against them, we started off quite bright in that game. We weren't really able to convert any of those opportunities, but in the first 15 minutes of the game, City were completely played out. So I expect us to have a similar opening like we did against Arsenal, like we did in the last game against City as well.
Yeah.
I think after that, first 15 to 20 minutes spell, the game will even out a bit. It will become a bit slower in the first half itself. But I think goals-wise, we'll only see it in the second half. I think first half could be a bit stale after the first 15 or 20.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what to expect today. Really don't. But I just hope we could, if we play well, if we kind of set out how we did against Forest, and there was a lot of things that I was seeing that was promising, and there was patterns that I liked. That's fantastic. But like we said at the start of the show, it would come full circle. It's like goals win your games, so you need to take your chances. If you don't take your chances, you can if buts and all that kind of stuff. Don't matter. You've not took them, and City will end up winning. Let's do the predictions, the bet sheets, whatever you want to call it. Give us yours first, Shreyas. Give me 4 things that you can see happening in this game.
Gundogan to get a yellow. Nunes to get a yellow. And Bruno to score or assist at any point. And Casemiro to get a yellow.
That's a lot of yellows. I think it could be feisty in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So do you think United will win this game?
Yeah.
What score?
2-1.
I've gone 2-1 as well. Is that weird? Are we being weirdly optimistic? I don't know. Don't know if that's strange because it's so hard to predict, isn't it? Against the big teams.
Yeah, I don't think United has ever won. Whenever both of us have said we are winning, I don't think we've ever won.
No, that'd be back-to-back 2-1 wins against City.
Yeah.
And look, even if you leave it late, don't care. If you do it again, because obviously Bruno scored, was it the 88th, and then Ahmad the 93rd or something?
Yeah. I'll even take a controversial pen in the 90th minute. Bruno and then go on.
Anyone who's watching this right now would absolutely agree with that, I'm sure. I'm going 2-1. I'm going Bruno goal or assist. Bruno yellow. And then I think Foden is going to score or assist as well. That's what I've gone for. So, yeah, look, hopefully it's a spectacle. Hopefully we get the job done and carry that momentum into the game against Lyon, because that is the big one in it, if we're all being honest. That game on Thursday is the one where you get into the semi-finals and then fucking anything can happen. And if you get back into the Champions League by winning the Europa League, not only do you win a trophy, but financially, the transfer market, everything included with that is just, huge positivity for the club. So
I think that semis is perhaps the biggest hurdle in that whole competition. I think if we get through the semis, I think finals I'm genuinely not going to be as concerned about, because beating Athletic Bilbao, knowing that the final will be held at Bilbao's home stadium, is going to be very difficult.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We won't get past Lyon first, and then, the semis is going to be difficult. And then if Tottenham end up getting to the final, we've got to play them in the final. They beat us 3 times this year as well, so difficult period for United. We lost to Forest. We've got a Manchester derby now, 2 games against Lyon and a game against Newcastle in between that. So difficult. But this is where the real players stand up. So yeah, let's see what happens. I hope you all enjoyed the game. I think me, Sam, and Chive will be live straight after it. You know the dance already, so make sure in the comment section giving us all your analysis. If you can, drop us a follow on social media. All the socials are at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen for news updates, game updates, everything that's going on with United. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And subscribe to the channel as well. We're on 13,560 subs. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see you after the game. Thank you to Shreyas for joining me. Thank you to everyone else for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.